I would consider myself a Stephen King fan. He is one of those prolific popular authors that it's hard to avoid, and I have read my fair share of his books. I have opinions, most of which are gushing, but with a catalog as big as his and some of the controversies that he has faced over his long writing career, of course, there are going to be some duds. If you're watching my reading wrap up for last month, then you know I was not a fan of Cujo. First published in 1981, it has all the elements that most people will talk about when they say they love Stephen King, as it starts off with characters that we saw in another novel, although I haven't read it. I believe it's The Dead Zone. And the style structure is what you'll see with most Stephen King novels. It covers several different characters, what they were doing in their everyday lives, and what they were doing when whatever horror or tragedy occurs. This also takes place in Castle Rock, a small town where messed up things seem to keep on happening. But unlike some of the other stories, they didn't really weave together as a cohesive novel. When it comes to family dynamics and a young child, he did it better in other stories. When it comes to being trapped in a situation where there is no hope, once again, I feel like he did it better in other stories. And when it comes to messed up, tragic, heartbreaking endings, it was done better in a later story. And I definitely think this is because it's one of his earlier works, so he was getting his footing. And if the urban legends and all the other reports on the internet are to be believed, while he was writing this book, he wasn't completely sober. It seems like he might have had what's the word that people are using nowadays to get away with censorship? A skiing addiction. And it kind of seems like it from the story because he was hitting those slopes with a rage. He doesn't always write female characters well, but there was not a lot of redemption in the few that we had in this novel. And there's definitely not always a happy ending, but dare I say that the way that this turns out feels tasteless, pointless, and just so very bleak. I wasn't quite sure what type of fear he was trying to feed on. Is it the fear that bad things still end up happening to good people or good dogs? Is it the fear of what the loss of loved ones would do to a person's psyche? Or is it the fear that some supernatural elements will somehow convince a dog to get rabies? I think where this novel fails is that it's not easy to discern what type of fear he was trying to feed upon when writing the story, especially when you compare this to Pet Sematary. But what do y'all think? If you read this book and found it scary, make sure you put it in the comments below. And because this came out in the early 80s, don't worry about spoilers. Drop the scary scene that had you quaking in your boots.